right, sit down. Get comfortable.
Holy mother of God. Hold on.
Is it hot enough for you?
There we go.
We might go back into the shade a little bit here.
I don't know. You guys are
Sliding
troopers.
back.
Yeah, son.
All right.
Yeah,
Jillian,
see, this
you
is
are
good.
so successful. What our audience wants to know is how much of that is strategy and how much do you think is being in the right place at the right time?
Well, what is it? Luck is preparation meeting opportunity, right? So I think everybody gets an opportunity, and the key is, are you prepared for it? When the door opens, you know, you get your foot in, and hopefully you're prepared enough that you stay in the room. So it's a combination.
Nice. Is there any such thing as balance? Everyone's talking about balance. Does it exist?
I want to know why your feet touch the ground and mine don't. Like, I seriously feel like a toddler. How is that even possible?
I think
Forgive
I'm
me.
sliding forward.
All right,
and
yeah. How are you doing that
back.
there? Because I have to be here. Sorry. All right. I look like a 3-year-old. How much of it is of life is balance? How much of
does it exist, and what does it mean for you if it does?
You know what's interesting is I actually have just completed my next book, which doesn't come out until December, but it's about, one person is buying that book. I'm in deep shit.
Come on, we'll all buy it.
Yeah, guys. Oh my God. My publisher just had a coronary somewhere in New York. And what's fascinating is the book is actually looking at aging on a cellular level, right? Like what's causing us to age and subsequently die. There's nothing in your genetics that says age or die. And when we look at the body processes that are related to that actually happening, the best way to make them work for us instead of against us is to find balance in all capacities of our life, whether it's food, fitness, lifestyle, stress management. I think it does exist, and it's up to us to find it, and it's unique for each and every one of us, right, is finding that kind of balance of what's too much. And the word TOO in front of anything is going to be a bad thing. You need to just keep that in mind.
That's good to know. Then what motivates you to get up in the morning?
I mean, I'm a very lucky person. Like, I have a great family. I have great friends. I love my work. So other than the fact that I love sleep, like pretty much a few people, good, I should write a book about sleep. Other than the fact that I love sleep, like I love to get up and just do my thing. Like I'm fortunate.
Do you have a mantra or a saying that you look to when the going gets tough?
Not at all. No, I have a therapist, and he helps me a lot. Yeah, like no, there's no mantra. I'm like, shut up. If anybody gives me like a quote, I'm like, stop it. Yeah, I just call my shrink.
Okay. There's a lot of Instagrammers out here, and I've seen them all taking photos. Do you think that Instagram discourages people, or that it motivates them to pursue their dreams of fitness and success?
I think that like everything in life, something is going to be what we make of it, right? So if you're on there and you're seeing things that are discouraging you and making you feel bad about yourself, beyond the fact that we should appreciate, you know, the filters and the angles and the Photoshop and all that stuff, don't look at it if it bothers you, right? Follow things that inspire you, because it's all on there, and it's up to you to really cultivate your feed so that it motivates you. And Instagram is just a kind of a metaphor, I think, for life to a certain extent, of like having to surround yourself with people that motivate and support you, you know, being in a career that motivates you and keeps you passionate. So like everything, it's really going to be up to you to make of it what you will.
That makes sense. Who do you look up to? Who's your hero or your role model?
I don't have a hero. Yeah, I'm not a subscriber to like the hero kind of thing. I mean, I'm inspired by people every single day that come up to me and tell me amazing stories about how they've changed a facet of their life or another. You know, they left a dead-end relationship, they started their own business, they lost 30 pounds, they ran a half marathon. Like, that to me is inspirational, and I get truly motivated by it. I'm like, okay, if you can do that, I can do this. But there's not one person that I ever am like, oh, you. I think that's a dangerous mindset.
Got it. Now, is there something in health, nutrition, or fitness that you once believed that you may have completely changed your opinion or perspective on?
So many things. But, you know, the fitness, I think that I have kind of had a pretty solid handle on that for a really long time. But lifestyle and nutrition changes on a regular basis. And even recently, I, for the longest time, was like, fasting is the worst thing you can do for your metabolism. And it actually is. However, when you look at fasting with regard to anti-aging and immunity, it has tremendous benefits because you're not constantly utilizing your body's energy to metabolize food, and you have less free radicals and oxidative stress. So it really made me stop and think, okay, how do we incorporate periods of not eating and looking at fasting as, okay, this means I'm not eating from here to here, not I'm starving my body and have calorie deprivation. And there's stuff like that all the time that I'm having to kind of reevaluate and look at and reading new studies on or talking to different doctors who have different takes. So for sure, absolutely. But the universal rules of health and wellness remain the same. Don't overeat, move your body as often as you possibly can, and use common sense with your food choices. Get your sleep, try to manage your stress, take your vacations, don't hang around with assholes. If you follow that, you're gonna, seriously, you'll be okay. I promise. Everything will work itself out.
You have coached so many people and seen so many people to success. In your opinion, what is a common roadblock that many people see that stands in the way of their success and or their fitness?
I think that a lot of people have not identified a very detailed why, right? So having anything in life is going to require work, and it's going to require sacrifice, or anything worth having, whether it's a strong relationship, a solid career, or good health. And work with purpose becomes passion, right? It's that purpose that allows you to tolerate the stuff that sucks about achieving that goal. But if you don't have that purpose, it becomes punishing. And I think it's, whenever back in the day when we would start Biggest Loser in the first day in the gym, and they'd go in there and they were like, I'm gonna change my life, I'm gonna change the world, and then 5 minutes into the first workout they were puking and crying and rolling on the floor and crawling for the door, and I was like, what did you think was gonna happen? That I was just gonna sprinkle some dust and shit on you and you were gonna shrink right up? Like, have you not seen this show? Like, what? And in that moment, I would ask each one of them, like, why are you here? And, they would all be like, I want to be healthy. And it's like, okay, right. And what does that mean to you? And then I would get, like, the best Scooby-Doo. It was like, no idea. Like, really, they had no idea. And I think you have to really, in detail, process. Like, I want to live to be 100, walk my daughter down the aisle, wear a 2-piece instead of a 1-piece, have sex with the lights on, which is overrated in my opinion, but nevertheless, it's not nighttime all the time. So I just think you really have to identify what matters to you. And once you have that why, that's the biggest part, right? That's what gives you that lasting motivation. Because it's the number one question I get, how do I get motivated? You've got to really identify the why in detail and form an emotional connection to it. And then you start to get into self-image and self-worth, of believing in your ability to achieve that. And that's where I think fitness is so transformative and transcendent, because when we have these little accomplishments in the gym, doing things we never thought we could do, although this crowd, I'm sure, is not feeling that way, but a lot of people are like, I can't do a pull-up, I can't run a mile. When they have that moment of achievement and accomplish something they never thought they could do, it opens up an infinity of other possibility and allows them to start redefining self-image. So I think those two things of why, that motivation, and how of feeling capable are the two things that you really have to help somebody with to move them towards a positive change.
I love that you mentioned the why, because I think a lot of people don't think about it. So what is your why, and where do you get your sense of discipline?
I have so many whys. I mean, I have 2 young kids now, so I want to be an inspiration for them, and I feel that, the whole, like, you can say it, but you have to do it. You have to lead by example. And so I do want to do that, right? I want to lead by example, and I want them to look back, because I remember my mom used to take, and still does, take very good care of herself, and I want them to be like, my parents took good care of themselves. They made time for self-care, and I was proud of them. And like, she was skiing with me down the mountain, not waiting at the bottom of the slopes. So being a role model for my kids while I still can, until they get a little older, it's like, is very important to me. It's a big why. But for my own selfish reasons, like, I want to feel good in my skin. I want to feel strong. I feel more confident when I feel good about my body. And I feel empowered. So it's being strong in all facets of my life, professionally and personally, and being a role model for my kids.
That's great. And since you mentioned your kids, how has being a parent, how has it changed the way that you go after challenges, or maybe has it changed your workouts? Tell us a little bit about that.
Not for the better. No. I think that, with kids, you go from like, I'm going to take that 90-minute yoga class to like, I'm going to work out for 5 minutes in my living room. What's that 7-minute ab app? Which, it forces you, I think, to learn more balance, for sure, because you have to spread yourself just a little bit thinner. It also forces you to give up any hope of perfection, which is impossible, but I know there are some of us that hold on to it, like, maybe I should say it's impossible, but I can do it. And, with kids, you're like, yeah, no, there's not a hope and a prayer. And you drop a lot of balls. You're forced to look at, your own humanity and mistakes that you make. And I think that it's humbling, and it allows me personally to give up that notion of being perfect in my workouts, or attempting to be perfect in everything I do. And that's a really good thing at the end of the day.
Excellent. Now, how about insecurities? So Livestrong audience writes to us all the time about their anxieties, insecurities. How do you overcome those? Can you tell us?
I think I appreciate that everybody has insecurities, and I've been really fortunate from a young age to look at flaws simply as opportunities for growth. Like, someone gave me this great analogy recently, and it's a form of, it's an art form that's Japanese, where they take broken pottery and put it back together with gold. And it's actually gorgeous. It's like kintsugi or something like that. And the whole idea being that it's these flaws that make us interesting, that make us beautiful, that are kind of the spice in the soup of life. And having an appreciation of that, and realizing, like, this is my life's work. These are things that make me human. These are the things that make me interesting. And these are the things that allow me to grow. It's about shifting that perspective, instead of saying, like, oh, I have this flaw or that flaw or this flaw and I'm insecure. It's like, this is who I am, and this is what I'm working on. So it's looking at it through a different lens, I think.
That's helpful. Now, Livestrong's helped 20 million people lose over 40 million pounds. What's your advice to people who have big weight loss goals?
Gosh, it really is. At the end of the day, like, I get that people are, diet has become religion for so many. But ultimately, whatever you subscribe to, whether you're vegan, paleo, gluten-free, like, okay, I respect it just like I would respect your religion. But really, you just need to eat less. You try not to eat shit that isn't food. And at the end of the day, move more and you'll lose weight. It's simple math. And as recently somebody was talking to me about, like, I'd really love to get your perspective on, this particular trend or whatever. And I was like, it's not perspective. You don't wake up and say, I believe that 2 + 2 = 4. It's called biochemistry. Like, it's science. It's not a question. It's an answer. So weight loss is math. It's calories in, calories out, and don't eat crap food at the end of the day for your health and your overall biochemistry and metabolism. And that's really all you need to know on a physical level.
Are there people that you follow on Instagram who inspire you, who you can mention?
Tons, absolutely. Yeah. In fitness?
Yeah, or in life?
Personally, well, many, but in fitness, like, I love Kaisa Karanen, KaisaFit. I think she's I think she's adorable. She's not here today, but I love everyone here today. But I happen to think she's just fantastic. Like, there's something about her. She's got the training. She has a degree in exercise science. And she's an influencer, and she's an athlete, and she has a tremendous personality. And I just see a really promising future for her. I love to follow her. And Just Train, who's kind of like her training partner. I love Alexia Clark. There's a host of people that I love in the space, and that I watch and follow. And Jessie Golden, Hannah Bronfman, like, a lot of the really fantastic young talent that I think are speaking to Gen Z and millennials in a really wonderful way, and being supportive and getting them motivated. And so absolutely. And I also think that it's about collaboration, not about competition. And I think the younger generation understands that. Gen X, we were gunslingers. It was like, there's only room in this town for one of us. Whereas millennials appreciate that to get anywhere, they have to collaborate and work together. And I really love that about this generation and many of the experts that I get to deal with on a daily basis.
I agree, and I see a lot of millennial women out there, so we're really glad they like to get involved and, like you said, collaborate. So what's your goal with your workouts right now, your own workouts?
I've been lifting again.
Yeah, look at those guns. Show those guns.
I didn't for like the longest time. I was very into body weight training and HIIT workouts, and I think I ended up having a leg injury, and I wasn't able to really do a lot of that stuff. So I was like in the gym with the iron, like, you know, like back to where I was when I was like 17. And I've noticed that it was really nice for my brain to have that change of pace. And I think because I hadn't done it in such a long time, it really did, it was transformative for me. Like I notice a difference in my body. So for me, like that's what I've kind of been up to is like old school, like pumping iron. And I've been getting back into my HIIT workouts now that my leg has been healing a bit, but that's what and I found it to be just extremely effective. Not that I didn't know that, but I didn't particularly love it. And I've started squats with the, you know, like, I'm like, okay, it's been fun.
I love that you mentioned strength training because it is so important for women. Is there a class or anything else that you like to do for cardio in addition?
I mean, I love a spin class. Who doesn't? When you've got a great teacher and the music's good, it's just a ton of fun. Rumble is a ton of fun. So classes to me are about fun and community. And so I like that. It's not cardio, but I love a yoga works class. It's all about the teacher. It really is. I think that just like fitness, it's all about the instructor. At the end of the day, you know, it's not that difficult to teach somebody how to do a lunge or a squat. But the person that's teaching you, that matters the most, I think. And so for me, classes are really about the teacher. They're the ones that make it fun. They're the ones that motivate you. They're the ones that hopefully play fantastic music and kind of keep you in the right headspace. But yeah, rumble, spin.
Cool. What about workout songs? Is there a song that gets you pumped and motivated, a favorite workout song?
I go back and forth between like EDM, and it just depends on the DJ. Like I like Eric Pritz, I like Steve Angelo. I mean, I like tritonal. Like I have then I've been into like reggaeton, like J Balvin, Bad Bunny. Yeah, and then of course like hip hop and rap. And I will always be a Nicki Minaj. I love Cardi B, but I will always be a Nicki girl. I mean, and Migos, and yeah, but I am a Cardi. This last album's so great, but August 10th cannot come soon enough. I've pre-ordered my Nicki Minaj album. I'm so excited. So people wait for like huge events in life. I'm waiting for that album to release. Pathetic. It's pathetic.
Well, since this community of our closest friends are out here, they probably want to hear maybe one or two of your best tips right now that are something that's on your mind that can make, whether it's something to eat that is a great snack, something to avoid. What's the latest secret from Jillian Micheals that you have to offer this closest friends of ours that have come here?
Okay, let's see. I would just say, first thing is really who you surround yourself with. I've noticed more than anything, it has such a tremendous impact on us because it affects the way we think, right? And the way we think affects how we behave, and how we behave is going to dictate our outcome and our reality. So if there are toxic influences in your life, get rid of the ones that you can and set boundaries around the one that you can't. You know, limit the conversations you have. If they're not supportive of you starting a new business or relationship or a health journey, like don't share it with them. And conversely, go out and seek like-minded individuals, which I think is what's been so successful about so many fitness trends, is that they do offer people community of other like-minded and supportive individuals. So really take an inventory of who you're spending time with, personally, professionally, romantically, and make sure that that individual lifts you up. And if they don't, get them gone. And then I would think also another really important, again, we go back to this concept of balance. And I realize as I have kind of looked at nutrition trends throughout the ages or fitness fads or what have you, the answer really is about finding that kind of yin and yang, give and take. Too little bad, too much bad. Seek that balance in your own life where you have enough time for you have enough time for work. And it sounds, I get that it's like, oh yeah, easier said than done, but I practice personally what I call the 12-hour rule. So if you have like 112 waking hours in your week, right? If you're sleeping 8 hours a night, which I'm sure many of you are not, but let's say you are. You have 112 waking hours. If you did 50 on work and 50 on running your household and your family, that leaves you with 12. And that 12 hours a week is enough for like the date night, 4 good half-hour workouts, 1 day or night out with friends, a doctor's appointment or a beauty appointment a week. And as long as I give myself 12 hours a week, I find that I can hold my shit together. It's not perfect, but I don't completely fall apart mentally or physically. And that's, for me, my recipe for balance is that 12 hours a week of self-care.
That's really great, and that's groundbreaking. I don't know if these guys have heard that before, and I hadn't, so thank you for sharing that
own personal
excellent
strategy
advice with us. You also mentioned sleep, and that's something, in addition to anxiety, that our Livestrong readers write to us all the time. What are your tips for getting 8 hours, and do you get 8 hours
I really try to. Sometimes I get 7, but I really try to because I understand, especially after this last book that I've written, how important it is to fight off the ravaging effects of everything that's aging us and stressing us and what have you. So I really do try. And I look at it and I say, like, all right, I know my kids are going to wake me up at 7 o'clock every morning, come hell or high water. So, all right, I need to be in bed by 12 at the latest. I don't think that's unreasonable. I really don't. And if you look at what you're doing at night in those hours before bed, I guarantee you're either on Netflix or you're on Instagram. And at some point, it's like, shut it off. For me, what I'll do is I try to deal with anything that's got me stressed. I shut the devices off at that point by 11. And I try to listen to a podcast. Someone recently turned me on to Radiolab, so I've been listening to a lot of those. Or a book on tape that kind of takes me out of the stuff that's stressing me at the moment. And I almost always, like, pass out. I have yet to get through one Radiolab, which is good and bad. So, but it does allow me to fall asleep and wake up relatively refreshed.
That's fantastic. That's a great trick, listening to something that calms you down.
Something that you can't, like, if you can't obsess about the day, that, like, sort of, yeah, I try anyway.
And I love that you mentioned podcasts. Do you have a favorite podcast you can tell us to check out?
I do a lot of the typical ones, right? Like This American Life. I love the Neil deGrasse Tyson one. I think it's like Science Talk or what have you. I can't remember the name of it, which is, what's it called? Star Talk? Thank you, buddy. I'm like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Star Talk, thank you. And I just started doing Radiolab, and I do TED Talks at night as well.
All right, well, the last thing that I think we want to know is, what's the best piece of advice that anyone's ever given you that you can share with us?
Trust your gut. I think so. The biggest mistakes that I have ever made are when I knew something was a mistake, but I didn't fight it. I didn't want to be called difficult, which is, may as well have that tattooed at this point across every inch of my body. Or that I was like, well, they're the doctor or the lawyer or the writer, or what do I know? And I didn't fight for it as much as I should have, and it ended up being as much of a disaster as I thought. And at the end of the day, when you don't fight for things and they go wrong, you're not going to work with that person again anyway, whether they thought you were really nice or not, or, and you're going to end up regretting it, and the mistakes that are going to be made, you're the one that's going to have to pay for. And so for me now, I try to be as diplomatic as possible, but I trust my gut, and I fight for what I believe in no matter what.
That is excellent advice. Everybody take that advice from Jillian Micheals.
Yeah, take that advice.
World-renowned health and fitness expert.